the path of the righteous man is beset on all sides. Pulp Fiction wasn't just a movie about criminals and lowlifes. It was a production that almost collapsed under the weight of its own ambitions, where A-list careers hung by threads thinner than Vincent Vega's patience, and where one scene literally made audience members faint during test screenings. Behind Tarantino's nonlinear masterpiece lies a web of casting wars, production nightmares, and moments so intense that studio executives wanted to cut entire scenes. From John Travolta's career resurrection, that nearly didn't happen, to Uma Thurman's terrifying experience with that infamous adrenaline needle, this film's creation was more chaotic than anything on screen. Today, we're diving deep into 15 weird facts about Pulp Fiction that even hardcore fans don't know. And stick around for the bonus fact at the end. It involves a mystery that Tarantino himself changed at the last minute, leaving one of cinema's greatest puzzles unsolved. Let's get into it. John Travolta's career was literally dead before Pulp Fiction. John Travolta wasn't Tarantino's first choice. He wasn't even in the conversation. The movie cost only $8 million to make. The initial budget was reportedly even lower until Bruce Willis was added to the cast, but before Willis, they needed to solve the Vincent Vega problem. Travolta's career had flatlined after a string of disasters like Look Who's Talking To and Chains of Gold. His agent couldn't even get him meetings, but Tarantino saw something others missed. He watched Saturday Night Fever and Grease obsessively, convinced that the real Travolta was buried under years of poor script choices. The gamble was massive, putting a has-been actor in a lead role for an indie film that couldn't afford mistakes. What audiences didn't know was that Travolta's performance in Pulp Fiction wasn't just acting. It was a man fighting for his professional life, and that desperation bled into every scene. The adrenaline-shot scene nearly killed the movie. It happened during a scene where Uma Thurman's Mia Wallace has adrenaline injected into her heart after accidentally overdosing on heroin. The audience member was taken home, but it caused producers Harvey Weinstein and Bob Shaye to fear the film's violence would make it fail. During the first test screening, a viewer actually fainted and had to be carried out of the theater. Panic erupted in the studio. Executives wanted the scene cut entirely, arguing it was too intense for mainstream audiences. However, in order to get just the right look of slamming a needle into someone's heart, Tarantino actually filmed John Travolta injecting the adrenaline into Uma Thurman in reverse. Then, during editing, he played the scene backwards so that it looked normal. The technical wizardry that created the scene was revolutionary, but nearly became the film's undoing before anyone could appreciate it. Uma Thurman beat out Hollywood's biggest names for Mia Wallace. A horde of major names auditioned for the role, including Meg Ryan, Halle Berry, Jennifer Aniston, Daryl Hannah, Joan Cusack, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. The competition was brutal. Every major actress in Hollywood wanted to work with Tarantino after Reservoir Dogs, but Thurman walked into that audition room and owned it completely. What's shocking is how different the film would have been with any other choice. Meg Ryan's girl-next-door charm, Jennifer Aniston's comedic timing, Michelle Pfeiffer's ice-cold beauty, each would have fundamentally altered the movie's DNA. Despite a scene where she overdoses and later has an adrenaline-filled needle jammed into her heart, Uma Thurman says she was most nervous about dancing with Travolta because I was so awkward and embarrassed and shy. That vulnerability became Mia's defining characteristic. Bruce Willis almost walked away over money. The initial budget was reportedly even lower until Bruce Willis was added to the cast. He had a recent string of domestic flops, but was still a box office draw overseas. But getting Willis wasn't easy. His demands nearly shattered the production before it began. The actor wanted 3 times what the film could afford, and negotiations stretched for weeks. Willis had just come off a series of domestic box office disappointments, but his international appeal was still massive. The producers knew they needed that star power to secure international distribution deals. What saved the deal was Willis's genuine excitement about working with Tarantino, something that rarely happened to the action star. The final agreement included profit participation that would later make Willis millions, proving that sometimes artistic passion pays better than guaranteed money. Samuel L. Jackson wasn't even supposed to audition. Jackson almost lost Jules Winfield to another actor entirely. He was in New York performing in a play when the casting call went out, completely unaware that the role existed. A fellow actor who had auditioned told Jackson about this incredible part, describing Jules's biblical monologue that would later become iconic cinema. Jackson flew to Los Angeles on his own dime, crashed the casting session, and demanded to read. Tarantino later admitted that Jackson's interpretation of Jules was so powerful it changed how he wrote the character's dialogue in subsequent drafts. The righteous fury, the philosophical undercurrent, the way Jackson delivered those biblical verses, none of it existed on paper until Jackson brought it to life in that audition room. The famous dance scene nearly didn't happen. The twist contest at Jackrabbit Slim's became one of cinema's most iconic sequences, but it almost got cut from the script entirely. Tarantino wrote it as a throwaway moment, barely half a page of dialogue. The extended dance sequence was improvised during filming when Travolta suggested they actually perform the twist instead of just talking about it. Travolta says of the scene, "Quentin recommended the twist. What transformed a simple conversation into movie magic was the natural chemistry between Travolta and Thurman, combined with Tarantino's decision to let the camera roll. The 3-minute sequence required 12 hours of filming with multiple camera angles capturing every hip shake and hand gesture. The result became the film's heart, a moment of pure joy in a world of violence. The briefcase mystery was solved, then unsolved. The contents of the briefcase is one of Pulp Fiction's greatest mysteries, but in the script, it wasn't so ambiguous. Quentin Tarantino and his co-writer Roger Avary wrote into the screenplay that the briefcase was filled with diamonds. For months, the cast and crew knew exactly what Vincent and Jules were retrieving. The diamonds made narrative sense, tied into the criminal underworld, and gave concrete motivation to every character who coveted the case. But during post-production, Tarantino made a radical decision. He removed all references to diamonds, eliminated dialogue that explained the contents, and transformed a simple plot device into cinema's greatest puzzle. The golden glow emanating from the case became purely symbolic, and audiences have been theorizing ever since. What was meant to be straightforward became deliberately mysterious, proving Tarantino's instinct for elevating material beyond its original conception. The diner robbery was filmed in actual operating restaurant. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because what I'm about to tell you about that final diner scene will change how you watch it forever. The restaurant in Pulp Fiction wasn't a set. It was a real diner that stayed open during filming, with actual customers eating breakfast while Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer prepared for their robbery scene. The production had to work around regular business hours, filming between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. when the diner was technically closed but still had late-night stragglers finishing their meals. Real customers occasionally wandered into shots, and their genuine confusion at seeing armed robbers created an authentic tension that no amount of extras could replicate. The compressed filming schedule meant every take had to count, leading to some of the most naturalistic dialogue exchanges in the entire film. Christopher Walken's watch speech was pure improvisation. Captain Coons's gold watch monologue to young Butch became legendary, but Christopher Walken wrote half of it himself during filming. Tarantino's script provided the basic story, the watch's journey through 3 generations of military service, but Walken expanded the narrative with his own details about Vietnam, captivity, and the watch's uncomfortable hiding place. The speech's power comes from Walken's ability to make the absurd feel profound. His delivery transformed what could have been dark comedy into genuine pathos, honoring military sacrifice while acknowledging war's dehumanizing effects. Tarantino later admitted that Walken's improvisation was so perfect that he incorporated similar monologue structures into his later films, proving that great actors don't just deliver lines, they elevate material beyond its original scope. The nonlinear structure almost got Tarantino fired. Studio executives couldn't understand why the story jumped around in time, demanding a traditional chronological edit that would make narrative sense to mainstream audiences. They commissioned a linear cut that told events in sequential order, creating a completely different viewing experience that eliminated the film's signature style. Tarantino fought back with characteristic intensity, arguing that the fractured timeline was essential to the film's meaning. The nonlinear structure allowed audiences to see characters from multiple perspectives, understanding their motivations before witnessing their actions. The battle over editing lasted months, with Tarantino threatening to remove his name from the project rather than compromise his vision. His victory established the principle that directors, not studios, should control their film's final form. Samuel L. Jackson's Bible verse became a cultural phenomenon. The Ezekiel 25:17 passage that Jules recites before executing his targets became one of cinema's most quoted monologues, but Jackson struggled with its delivery for weeks during rehearsals. The challenge wasn't memorization, it was finding the right balance between religious solemnity and street-level intimidation. Jackson experimented with different vocal approaches, from whispered menace to shouted proclamation, before discovering the speech's internal rhythm. The final delivery builds from quiet intensity to thunderous declaration, mirroring Jules's internal transformation throughout the film. Jules and Vincent's Royale with Cheese dialogue became famous. It was referenced more than a decade and a half later in the Travolta vehicle From Paris with Love. The speech's impact extended far beyond the movie, influencing everything from rap lyrics to political speeches. Uma Thurman's overdose scene required medical supervision. The complexity of filming Mia's overdose sequence required on-set medical professionals to ensure both accuracy and safety. Thurman had to simulate the physical effects of heroin overdose while remaining conscious for dialogue delivery, creating technical challenges that pushed practical filmmaking to its limits. The scene's power comes from Thurman's commitment to physical authenticity. She studied medical footage of overdose victims, learned proper injection techniques, and mastered the physical collapse that makes Mia's condition believable. The medical consultants verified that every detail, from pupil dilation to respiratory distress, matched real overdose symptoms, making the sequence both dramatically effective and educationally accurate. Vincent Vega's bathroom breaks became a running gag. Vincent's frequent bathroom visits weren't originally scripted as a recurring element, they emerged organically during filming as Tarantino realized the character's vulnerable moments consistently occurred during private bathroom scenes. The pattern became a dark comedy element that observant viewers began anticipating. Each bathroom scene serves a narrative function beyond comedy. Vincent's absence during crucial moments drives plot developments, from Mia's overdose to his eventual demise at Butch's hands. The recurring gag became a structural element that demonstrates how small personal habits can have massive consequences in criminal life, turning bathroom breaks into moments of dramatic irony that heighten tension rather than relieve it. The film's low budget created unexpected innovations. $5 million went to pay the actors' and actresses' salaries. With most of the budget consumed by talent costs, the production team had to find creative solutions for everything from locations to special effects. The financial constraints forced innovations that became the film's signature style. The limited budget meant fewer takes, tighter shooting schedules, and improvised solutions that often worked better than expensive alternatives. The restaurant scenes used available lighting, the car interiors were lit with practical sources, and many dialogue scenes were filmed in single extended takes to save time and film stock. These limitations created an intimate, naturalistic style that expensive productions often struggle to achieve, proving that creative constraints can enhance rather than limit artistic expression. The film's success nearly destroyed Tarantino's career, Pulp Fiction's massive critical and commercial success created impossible expectations for Tarantino's future work. The film earned over $200 million worldwide against its tiny budget, won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and earned 7 Academy Award nominations, establishing Tarantino as cinema's newest genius. But success became a trap. Every subsequent project was measured against Pulp Fiction's impact, with critics and audiences expecting each new film to revolutionize cinema again. The pressure nearly paralyzed Tarantino's creative process, leading to years of false starts and abandoned projects. The film that made his career also threatened to end it, proving that in Hollywood, success can be more dangerous than failure. Only by ignoring expectations and following his artistic instincts did Tarantino manage to continue creating groundbreaking cinema. The spiritual journey that transformed Samuel L. Jackson's Jules from killer to seeker wasn't inspired by religious texts or philosophical treatises. It came from Tarantino's own experience with a near-death car accident during pre-production. The director's brush with mortality while location scouting forced him to reconsider the themes he wanted to explore in the film. Originally, Jules was written as a straightforward antagonist who dies violently like most crime movie characters. But Tarantino's accident led him to explore redemption and second chances, transforming Jules into the film's moral center. The divine intervention speech wasn't just character development. It was Tarantino processing his own mortality and finding meaning in random violence. This personal experience elevated Pulp Fiction from clever crime story to profound meditation on fate, choice, and the possibility of transformation. Pulp Fiction wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural earthquake that shifted how we think about narrative, violence, and redemption in cinema. Behind every iconic scene lay production decisions that could have destroyed the film entirely, yet somehow created something greater than the sum of its parts. What started as a simple crime story became a masterclass in filmmaking, proving that the most memorable movies often emerge from chaos, conflict, and the collision of creative minds refusing to compromise their vision. If this deep dive into Pulp Fiction's secrets blew your mind, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes revelations that will change how you watch your favorite films. Because in cinema, as in life, the truth is always stranger than fiction and way more interesting than what we see on screen.